Today we will be looking at two horrifying caving stories that went horribly wrong. As always, viewer discretion is advised. June 15th, 2002. The Florida sun beat down on the entrance to Bat Colon Cave as 26-year-old Mark Orr adjusted his diving mask. He and three friends had traveled to Florida's Panhandle region, specifically to explore underwater caves. The crystal-clear springs and extensive cave systems were legendary among divers. But Mark and his friends were making a fatal mistake. All four divers were certified open-water divers. They had completed basic scuba training and were comfortable diving in oceans, lakes, and quarries. But cave diving is an entirely different world, one that requires specialized training, equipment, and certification. Cave diving statistics are terrifying. Since 1960, nearly 500 divers had been reported missing in underwater caves across Florida, Mexico, and the Caribbean. Of those 500, only 3 had ever been found alive till this incident. The group stood at the cave entrance, excited and completely unaware of the danger they were about to face. They had basic scuba gear, tanks, regulators, masks, and fins. What they didn't have was cave diving equipment like redundant air systems, specialized lights, and proper guideline reels. They did bring one rope to use as a guideline, a single cord they planned to follow back to the entrance. In proper cave diving, this guideline is sacred. It's the umbilical cord connecting divers to the surface and survival. Losing it means almost certain death. The water at the cave entrance was impossibly clear. Visibility extended for dozens of feet, several meters, making the underwater world seem safe and inviting. The limestone formations created a cathedral-like space filled with shafts of sunlight. Mark took a deep breath and descended into the water. The first few minutes were magical. The cave opened into a large chamber with stunning rock formations. The temperature was a comfortable 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 22 degrees Celsius, kept constant by the natural spring system. But as the 4 divers moved deeper into the cave, the environment began to change. The passages became narrower. The natural light from the entrance faded to black. Now, they were completely dependent on their flashlights to see. That's when disaster struck. In cave diving, the greatest danger isn't running out of air or equipment failure. It's something far simpler and far more terrifying: silt. The floor of underwater caves is covered with fine sediment that has accumulated over thousands of years. This silt is so fine that it can remain suspended in water for hours. When disturbed by divers' fins or movements, it creates what cave divers call a silt out, a condition where visibility drops to 0 in seconds. One of the divers accidentally kicked the cave floor. A cloud of silt exploded upward like an underwater dust storm. Within seconds, the crystal-clear water turned into a brown soup, where visibility was measured in inches rather than feet. Panic set in immediately. Mark couldn't see his hand in front of his face. He couldn't see his fellow divers. Most critically, he couldn't see the rope guideline that was supposed to lead them back to safety. In zero visibility, underwater, deep inside a cave system, disorientation is instantaneous. Up feels like down. Left feels like right. The human brain simply isn't designed to function without visual reference points. Mark reached out blindly, trying to find the rope or his diving partners. His hands found only rock walls and water. His air consumption skyrocketed as panic drove his breathing rate higher and higher. Cave diving training teaches specific protocols for silt outs. Divers are trained to remain calm, feel for the guideline, and follow it back to safety using touch alone. But Mark had no such training. He was operating on instinct and fear. He swam blindly through the darkness, burning through his air supply at an alarming rate. His tank gauge was dropping rapidly. In normal diving conditions, a tank might last 45 to 60 minutes. In panic conditions, that same tank could be empty in 15 minutes. Mark's gloved hands scraped against limestone walls as he searched desperately for the way out. Every passage felt identical in the darkness. He had no idea if he was swimming deeper into the cave system or toward the entrance. Then he remembered something. Earlier in the dive, before the silt out, they had passed through a large chamber with an air pocket at the top, a place where the cave ceiling rose above the water level, creating a breathing space. With his air gauge approaching zero, Mark made a desperate gamble. He stopped swimming horizontally and instead kicked upward, hoping to find that air pocket. His head broke the surface just as his regulator delivered its last breath of compressed air. Mark gasped in the cave air, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. He was alive, but his situation was still desperate. He used his failing flashlight to survey his surroundings. He was in an air pocket roughly 10 feet